Hey, it's Keith. Have you ever thought about creating your own audio drama? Ever wanted to make your first episode of something? Then you should know about the Audio Drama Lab. It's a Discord-based resource for audio drama development and networking. You can connect with other creators, find actors and musicians, and even incubate your idea with step-by-step advice, accountability, and encouragement. Check it out at audiodramalab.com and start telling your story. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of a podcast about audio drama and the creative process. I'm W. Keith Timms, audio drama producer and podcaster. In this show, I listen to the first episode of an audio drama, then have a discussion with the creators about their show, their methods, struggles, and successes. Today, we're discussing the first episode of Ice Cream.
Mom! Ice cream truck! Can I get one?
Yeah, sure, honey. Just make sure you come right back, okay? No talking to strangers.
Okay.
Hey, Johnny, don't you need money? Johnny!
Ice Cream is a retro horror story created by Adam Murciano and Adam Blanford. Set in 1988, it follows the story of 14-year-old Elgin Foster who, while spending the summer with his newly divorced dad, witnesses child abductions at the hands of the local ice cream truck driver, known as Mr. Handsome. When the police are unable to help, Elgin and another teen, Olivia, team up to discover the truth. The first episode, When the Streetlights Come On, introduces us to Elgin and his little brother, Dustin, as they arrive at their father's house in Arizona. We also discover Mr. Handsome claiming a victim. I spoke with Adam Murciano, co-creator of the show and the voice of Mr. Handsome, remotely from his home in Toronto. Tell us a little bit about yourself as an artist and a creator and how you got into doing this kind of stuff.
Ever since I was a child, I've been doing local theater and have just been so fascinated with just film and television and acting, and grew up wanting to do it. And my grandparents, that's what they did. They worked in the film industry as extras, in their retired years. It was easy work for them and good money. And so for me to see them do that, it was tangible that it was possible. It wasn't I was just watching TV and that felt so far away, Hollywood and all that. I saw my grandparents working on big movies and stuff. So I was like, it's possible. I can actually do this. I tried for many years to convince my parents to get me an agent. I bullied them. They never wanted me to do it. They wanted me to be a kid and go out and play instead of dragging me to auditions, which now, looking back, I'm very thankful for. But at the time, that's all you want to do. And I finally convinced them when I was 13, 14 to get an agent. And I started working in film and TV. And I never got anything super big or anything, especially, as a teenager. I was kind of awkward looking. I had braces. And so that kind of slowed the career a bunch. But then, as the years progressed, I got things here and there. I moved to Vancouver, tried a new city. I'm from Toronto originally. And then 2020 hit. And that's when everything kind of changed for me. I started creating my own work because we were all locked in the house and didn't know, I couldn't audition. And that's where I started to begin working on my own projects. And it was just a light went off and I have never looked back.
Had you ever done writing like this before?
Never. So what happened was my agent dropped me in 2020. And it was just days after the pandemic. I think he was clearing off his roster and I was so devastated. I didn't know what to do. This was my life. This is all I knew. And everyone always says, create your own work, create your own work. And I'm just like, well, how? I don't have money to hire a camera crew and lighting guys and stuff. And so I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to do this, audio dramas. Let's just try. Why not? I'm stuck in the house. And so I just started writing for myself, just little pilots, just seeing what stuck with me. And so there was no really experience. I just kind of just practice. But, growing up in the film industry and reading a lot of scripts, since I was 12, I feel like I knew how to write a script, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. How did you know about audio drama?
I actually started doing podcasts with my friends in 2013. I just did a fun talk show thing. We did 10 episodes or whatever. It was really new. Nobody really knew what we were doing. But I would always play around on the iTunes page and look around and stuff. And I saw fiction. And I saw like the early stuff, like Chronicles of Leviathan and the Black Tapes, all these like early shows. And I was so fascinated by it, but I was so intimidated. And I was like, I would love to do one day, but I could never. I don't even know where to begin. And so that's, when 2020 hit, I was like, you know what? Why not? Like, I can't film things. I can't really do anything. I can make this in my own home.
Is this when you created 911 Podcasts?
Yes. Our first show was Cascadia, and it's a deep sea submarine show. And I was like, we got to have a production name. At the time, I couldn't stop seeing the numbers 911. I would see it on license plates. Every time I turned on my phone, it would be 911, like the time, or, everywhere I would turn, it was like, I'm losing my mind. I would like take photos just to prove it. I'm not crazy, you guys. I looked it up, and it's angel numbers, and it means, this is where you're meant to be. I thought, that's a really cool kind of, first of all, it's a cool name, 911 Podcast, but also just like, it's a cool kind of like homage to me, because at the time I was so lost, and what to do with my career and where to go. And to see that all the time, okay, this is what you're meant to do at this time. And I just thought, let's go with that.
One thing I think is really interesting is that 911 Podcast, you have like a premier subscription service.
Yes. We just launched that.
You put Ice Cream on iTunes, but you kind of made it a special subscription through iTunes as well. I mean, it was available through other platforms, but you were giving sort of additional content, I think.
Yes.
So I'm really curious about your choice for monetization here, because that's one of the questions that a lot of, audio drama people wrestle with is, how do I make money doing this thing? Talk to me about your decision to approach your productions with this subscription model.
Ideally, we wish we started this when we launched our whole production company, but I think Apple wasn't quite there yet even. On the Apple page, you can get a clean version of the show. So if you're listening in the car with kids or whatever, we have a whole clean version of it. We also have a supercut version of it where, it's great for road trips or, long flights where you don't have to skip through episodes, or maybe you don't have Wi-Fi. You can listen to it all one setting. And we also have like behind the scenes interviews, kind of like what we're doing right now with the cast. So we dive into each actor and talk about, their experience of working the show and creating the character and all these things. I think it's such a fun way for fans to go on and to learn more about their actors and the show. And so I'm really excited, and it's been doing really well, surprisingly, because, these shows have already been out, but these people really want more content. And I was really shocked to see how many people signed up for it. So I'm excited, and I'm excited to see where it goes in the future. As we progress with new seasons and new shows, it's going to be, those fans will get the first listen to the episodes, and, maybe, bloopers and extra content, all that kind of stuff will be available on that platform as well.
Sometimes people will make their podcasts exclusive, like it's a Spotify exclusive or an Apple Podcast exclusive. But I don't think you did that with your shows.
No.
Talk to me about that.
I don't want to do that. I want people to listen to the work that we've put in. I want it to be able to have that reach, and that's why we do it, is to entertain. Maybe those fans on the platform will get the first access and first listen, but I want to always be available to people. It's why we do what we do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I know that we have to approach this as a business sometimes, right? We have to think about like the amount of time we spend versus if we're getting any income at all or something like that. And it's one thing if you're doing this for the fun of or for the love of, but if you're trying to make a career out of this, these kind of questions are important. But at the same time, you do want, I think all artists want an audience.
I feel like we're at the beginning stages, right? We're still trying to make our name for ourselves. We're still trying to prove ourselves and get ourselves out there and, really just build our audience. Our fan base. And that to me is the most important thing, is to have people enjoy our content. That always will come first, podcasts, especially fiction podcasts. We're still in the early stages of it. And we're just trying to figure out the industry and how to monetize it and make money and make everyone happy.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, I'll notice comments that like, oh my God, I can't believe they put ads in this audio drama. I'm so used to getting it for free. There's this entitlement, I think, that sometimes comes from a lot of people in the audience. On the one hand, I kind of get it. On the other hand, artists got to eat too.
And they also don't know how much work we put into it. I mean, some do, but a lot of people don't realize how much work it is, and you get little back, right? I mean, to me, what feeds me and what makes me excited is to see the reactions and people actually enjoying it, and that to me, like, feeds my soul. But, in terms of like money, if like we have an ad, it's, it's not that big of a deal. Come on, guys, just press the little 30-second thing if you don't want to listen to it,
Let's talk a little bit about Ice Cream itself, the show.
Sure.
What is Ice Cream in your own words? What do you think about when you think about this show?
Well, Ice Cream follows this 14-year-old boy, Elgin Foster. When I create a show, I really want to have an aesthetic to it. I want you to really feel this vibe, whether it's, Cascadia, it's super futuristic underwater, or Ice Cream, where it's, the retro 1980s summer vibe. And that's exactly what it was. Elgin, he's 14, he's on the cusp of puberty, and he has to go spend the summer with his newly divorced dad. He goes to Arizona with his little brother. He begins to start to notice a string of kids in the neighborhood going missing. He literally physically witnesses it from the local ice cream truck man. But now Elgin has a concussion, and he doesn't know if it's his brain that's playing these games on him or if what he saw was real, until he meets his neighbor, Olivia, who's 15 years old. She believes him. She even says a quote where nobody questions the ice cream truck man. They just put money in our hands and make us go get ice cream for them. The listener follows Elgin and Olivia as they uncover what they start to discover really disturbing things about this guy and what he's doing to these kids.
So thinking about Elgin and how awkward he feels, talks about his face and how he's breaking out. And he actually says at one point that he feels like he's very ugly. I'm curious as to, was this coming from a personal space or a feeling that you had when you were maybe growing up?
Yeah, I struggled with acne terribly. If you know me personally, I had some really bad acne. And as an actor, that was double the pressure, being on camera and stuff. And so I definitely, I think we all go through that, some degree. And, it's crazy how our appearance really does matter to ourselves, internally, we go out in the world, and if we have all this acne, it's we don't even want to be seen. And it's it's bigger in your head, of course, because the average person maybe doesn't care. But, it's just heightened, especially when you're that age. And so I wanted to tap into that. I know that there's people out there that could have related to that feeling. It kind of plays into the whole story later on and what beauty means and how far you'll go to have that beautiful skin and looking young.
You wrote Elgin in a divorced family.
Yes.
Is there a reason why you wanted to add the familial difficulties to his situation?
I think in the 1980s, if a parent got divorced, it was such a big deal. And just to add on to the whole thing of you're being a kid, you're going to high school, you're nervous, your skin, it's just that feeling again, that teenage feeling of everything sucks. Everything sucks, and that was just another layer onto it. I want to explore that Bobby character, which is his dad. Maybe the dad and him weren't always very close. And the dad is kind of awkward and doesn't really know how to deal with a teenage son. And he says awkward things. And I just want to explore that.
Dad, can we go skateboarding after dinner?
Yeah, we want to explore the neighborhood.
I don't know, guys. It's getting late.
Please?
Come on, Dad. It's summer.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that's fine. Go.
All right, sweet.
Radical!
Hey, but what's my rule?
When the street lights come on, it's time to come in.
Mm-hmm.
In the city, yes, but can we stay out for a bit later?
No.
I'm gonna go get the skateboards.
Dustin, hey, you put your dishes in the sink, you knucklehead. Dustin! Hey!
The fact that you said it in 1988 seems to be really relevant. It does have that kind of classic 80s Spielberg-esque kind of feel in terms of the family dynamic, right?
Yes.
When I think about E.T. or Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I'm thinking about, these are broken homes. These are kids dealing with divorce, and so, I definitely got that vibe. Yeah. Were there other reasons why you wanted to set this in 1988?
Well, the main reason was that, because today you could just Google things or you can call someone or everyone has a cell phone. Then, you couldn't do that. And, later on in the show, there's, phone booths and all these things. And I also love the aesthetic. At the time of writing it and making it, I was so into 1980s vaporwave, lo-fi music, underground kind of almost like elevator 1980s mall music. I don't know, just you can find compilations on YouTube and it's kind of dark and haunting in a way. And I get very into these shows and when I'm making a show. And so everything, my whole life gets taken up about it, music, what I'm listening to, everything. And so I just love that vibe. I love the feel and the bike rides and all these things that happen in the show that just help tell that story, and I just enjoy it. Yeah.
Cell phones have destroyed horror movies, right?
Yeah. Because you can just call.
Right. Exactly. No matter where you are. I'm working on a horror show right now, The Love Talker, but I'm like, okay, how do we deal with the cell phone issue, right? And my solution was, well, we'll stick them up away in the mountains where there's no cell phone
no
coverage.
service. Yeah.
Right. But you've got to figure out a way to handle that. So you just went back in time, and I think that was smart. Well, I mean, I think it was smart not just because it did handle a problem for you, but because it does tie into this sort of feeling of the classic 80s horror movie. All right, so we get into the first episode. We get to meet Elgin and his younger brother Dustin, and of course their dad and mom, and we get to sort of get the whole setup there. We also get to meet the ice cream truck driver, who's known as Mr. Handsome, and you voice Mr. Handsome.
Yes.
It isn't long, actually, before Elgin witnesses Mr. Handsome kidnapping a child. And in fact, we actually start the first episode with a kidnapping. So there's no question that Mr. Handsome is the monster, so to speak.
Look, kid, I'm going to share something with you that's going to bring you great value to your life. Why don't you come a little closer? Nothing in life is ever free. Even when you think it is, it isn't. They always make you pay. One way or the other.
Well, can you wait here? And I can go ask my mom.
No, that's okay, Johnny. The ice cream will melt. I have another idea of a way you could pay me.
What now?
I want you to sing to me my favorite song. Can you do that for me, Johnny?
What's that?
I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. Your turn.
A lot of times authors might have chosen instead to sort of hide that a bit, make it part of the mystery, the whodunit. I'm curious as to why you wanted the monster right there up front from the very beginning.
Thank you for asking that. It's for me, I wanted to drop you into that. It's about 6 minutes into the show before you even meet who our main character, Elgin. The reason why I really did that was because it wasn't Mr. Handsome. He's doing these things, but that's not the twist. The twist is, why is he doing these things? You think one thing about Mr. Handsome and you think one thing and where the story's going, but it completely switches. And I've seen people say, I never thought I would feel bad for Mr. Handsome, but I do. The horror part is not like the jump scare or the music or that's not the scary part. Yes, you can be watching a film and you can see all the gore and all that. But the true horror to me is how you can make one wrong mistake and that can change the course of your life forever. Your past, maybe you did something in your past, it can come back and haunt you again. These are the themes that really are terrifying. And, that's kind of what we explored a lot with this character particularly. And what choice do you really have when you're in the corner? It's things that could happen to you. That's what's scary, Everyone is one mistake away from making a life-changing decision, truly.
There's some pretty scary things that happen, specifically to children in this show.
Yes.
And you had child actors, I believe.
Yes.
Did you have to do anything special knowing that you'd have kids who were dealing with this sort of scary subject matter? And maybe your background as a child actor played into this.
Well, I have to tell you, the child actors were phenomenal. They came into the studio prepared. They knew what they were doing. I was like, are you okay with this? They're like, oh yeah, this is a piece of cake. They were excited. They were just on the ball. The first scene of that first episode, I swear at the end at the little kid, my character, Mr. Handsome, and I didn't feel comfortable personally doing that. I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing this in the studio. I don't want to swear at this 9-year-old child. So I asked him to leave, and then we did that part later on. But working with kids was very interesting. We have to deal with the union, and there's certain times and chaperones and going through agents. It was interesting, but it was so worth it because those kids, they brought it, and I'm so grateful for them, truly.
Is there anything about this particular story that made you want to tell it when you did?
Yes. Well, me and Adam, which is my co-writer, we just finished writing a sitcom, which is coming out it's our next production. And we were just really working on it. And we were on the last episode of writing that sitcom. And I'll never forget this. I was outside. It was late May, early June. And this blaring, annoying ice cream truck just went vroom right by me. And I was like, oh my God, that's so annoying. And then I just started thinking about it and thinking about how it's almost kind of hypnotic. You know, you see kids running to it and you buy this ice cream from this person that you don't even know, and then they're gone. And I remember my mom would have like a little jar at the front door, you know, when she was at work, whatever, you know, for the ice cream truck. She'd have change in there for us kids to go grab it and, you know, go get ice cream. And it's like, what? Like, if you really think about it, it's a crazy concept. I'm not trying to cancel any ice cream workers. We love ice cream trucks, trust me. But if you really play into the horror of it all, it's interesting. And so this whole story kind of just hit me in that moment. And I called Adam, my writer, and I said, you're going to think I'm absolutely crazy, because we were gearing up to record the sitcom. I said, we're going to have to shelve the sitcom because I have this other idea that I want to do in time for Halloween. Are you down? And he said, you're crazy. Let's go. And so we penned the whole show in about less than 2 weeks. It just came out. And that's how I knew that this was something that I wanted to do.
There is something of like this urgent opportunity cost that comes with an ice cream truck, right? Especially when you're a kid. It's like, oh my God, I did this ice cream thing that I did not know was going to be there. Suddenly it's here. And in 30 seconds, it will be gone.
Right? And you need it. It's like a drug, you know? And that's such a crazy concept to me. Like, it's kind of crazy how that even hasn't been really much explored in film and television, you know? Parents don't really question it. They just give you money and say, go get ice cream. Okay.
One of the other things I like about your show is that you put a lot of work into the sound design.
Thank you.
There's a lot of Foley, some interesting, really cool music too. But what I really noticed that stood out was you put a lot of attention to detail into the little sounds in the background. Like, there was one moment that's kind of stood out to me. It's when Elgin has taken a fall on a skateboard. He's hurt his head and he's talking with his dad. And his dad actually throws him an ice pack to put on his head. And, you know, you didn't have to do that. I mean, he could have just handed him an ice pack. But you put the dialogue in there that he tosses it to him, and and then you actually did the Foley of someone throwing an ice pack across the room.
Yeah, skateboarding and photography. Dangerous combo.
Yeah.
Well, let's get you some fresh ice here. Catch.
Yep.
So other than that, how was exploring the hood?
Don't say hood, Dad.
Oh.
But it was cool. Hey, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
Do you know anything about an ice cream truck guy around here?
I know there's an ice cream truck. Well, it comes by maybe once a day or so, but that's about all I know. Why?
He gave Dustin free ice cream. I don't know. I just got some weird vibes from him. Plus, the music from his truck sounded, I don't know, like demonic.
Demonic. Was this before or after you hit your head?
So talk to me about your philosophy about these little details that you put into your show.
Well, thank you so much for saying that and noticing that, because, you know, as the editor, those are little things that I hope people catch. And, you know, I think it's just, to me, that's fun. You know, I love to do these little Easter eggs and these little background things because it helps paint the picture, you know, and that's why I love audio drama so much, is because I'm giving you all the tools. You just have to fill out the blanks, which is just picture it, right? And so I take the time to do that. I take the time. I'll spend hours and hours and hours sitting there looking for the right sound effect, you know, because it's important. To me, that's important, you know, and that's why I love listening to shows, because I like to listen to those details. So, you know, I really like to put that in there, and it helps with the experience, right? It helps you feel like you're in there and it's like 3D almost, right? So for me, that's what I enjoy.
These little details really add some veritas to the show, like a feeling of reality there, leaning into the realism of the scene. Like that moment with the ice pack. I mean, that moment, again, it didn't have to happen, but I do think it added to the relationship between Elgin and his dad. Right. And it sort of told us a little bit more about who they are to each other.
Yeah. Like, he's not really like maybe the best dad. Like, he's more of a buddy kind of dad, if anything. And he's trying to relate to his son, and he's awkward and catch his ice pack. Like, he didn't have to do that, but he's trying to be cool. And it's that typical 80s dad, you know, and that's part of the story, you know, and it comes into play later on when things start to go wrong and he doesn't know how to handle it.
What do you struggle with?
So I think if you asked me this time last year, I would have said the perfectionism in me. It was so hard for me to be okay and done with the scene and be like, okay, it's good enough. Now, 2 audio dramas later, I have overcome that. And, I still work hard and I still put the details, but I'm okay with it. I'm like, okay, this is good enough. I can move on to the next thing, And I think that just came from confidence. But today I would say I struggle a lot, and this is really weird, but I struggle with like post-show blues. I work so hard and so long on these shows. It really does take up my life. Like I eat, sleep, dream, breathe the show. And then when it's done, I'm like, what do I do with myself?
Exactly.
Like what's next?
Exactly right.
And that's not good either, and I'm trying to find that balance of being, living my life and doing the show and having that kind of balance. And that's what I'm working on right now. So that's kind of what I struggle with, especially after Ice Cream. It was like a kind of a big low. I mean, I spent so much time in such a short time, but it took up all my time. And then when it was done, it was like this like weird come down. It was,
What have you been doing to get past that?
Make new content. I love what I do. Yeah, I love this so much. And it's like, I know that this is for me, and so I just, on to the next thing.
Yeah, that's the thing is I find that if I don't keep myself busy, it's easy to, for me, I deal with anxiety. So for me, if I don't distract myself by doing some work, it's easy for me to get into sort of
slip
negative
into
thought.
that.
Negative thought space and that kind of stuff. But it's like, okay, now what? You're done with, you're done with this thing. And do I work on the sequel? Do I work on something else? And then it's also like trying to find the next idea. Cause I've got tons of ideas and I'm trying to find the ones that stick, right?
That stick. Yes. Yep.
How do you measure success?
So I look at it in 2 different ways. I think internally success, like the success I measure is if I'm happy with the piece that I did. If I'm jumping up and down and clapping when I listen back to an edit, I'm like, yes. That to me is a success. I feel good about putting it out. I'm excited. That's a success. Because I feel like when it's not right, something's not right with the edit, when you don't feel like some timing is off, there's things to work on. But when it all kind of gels together, you're like, yes. And then you put it out and it's just like, I'm excited to do that. That's one way. And then the other way is the kind of external way of success I kind of measure is I don't really look. I mean, I do look at the numbers. Of course, you can't. I'd be lying if I didn't.
Sure,
but
sure.
I think truly is seeing people recommend our show, talk about our show on forums and Reddit. Like I could cry because it's like, if anyone, that you work so hard on these things and you kind of just put it out there and then you see people talk about it and enjoy it. And that is like, I said earlier, it's like a high, it's like a drug. And it's like, okay, this is why I do what I do, it's to entertain and to provide like almost like an escapism for people. And if I've done that, then I have achieved my job and goal.
I presume that 911 Podcasts is trying to be a money-making operation. Does that enter into your feeling of accomplishment or success?
I haven't really thought about it yet. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. It's been so busy with just creating content and making stuff. My goal right now is to just have people enjoy the show, build a fan base. I feel like money and all that will come later, if that is in the books. But to me, that's not why I'm doing it. That's not the main priority. I know that there's not a lot of money in this yet, know? And so I feel like if I start to think about, okay, I got to do this for money, then our content will start to decrease in quality and my priorities are going to shift. Right now, I just want to focus on creating good stuff, quality stuff, building a fan base. All that other stuff will come later.
I'm kind of in this weird crossroads too, because, Book of Constellations, I did mostly just for myself and as a way to introduce myself into the field, to build an audience, a portfolio piece, if you will. Now, I'm working on Love Talker, and Love Talker is much more ambitious. I'm actually trying to figure out the best way to, maybe I can get some commercials or something, just to do that. But then I'm thinking about the show after that, because I'm like, okay, if Love Talker is successful, then hopefully I'm going to have a sizable audience base that I can maybe. And so I'm thinking, well, what about my next show? And I said, maybe I should do something that is Patreon friendly.
Yes.
Right? Specific that I can make new content for, that's open-ended. Right. See, the thing is, by thinking about that, I'm already affecting the kind of choices of the stories that I want to tell.
Right. Exactly.
That becomes part of the calculation. And that's kind of a weird place to be for, an artist who's just like, I like this story. I want to tell it, so.
Right. But it's also you're thinking about your fans too, like what you can give them, like alternate endings and behind the scenes look and all these things that help with the experience of your show. So like you said, yes, it does affect the way that storytelling is, but it also gives more of an experience, a heightened experience for those fans as well. What's really cool about this medium and audio dramas is that this stuff will live on forever, and it's not current affairs. So, people can listen and discover this in 10 years and it's still fresh to them. You know what I mean? And so you can always make money on it later on. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, I feel like right now I'm just trying to build up the content and the library and make a good collection of shows and stuff. And then later on, we can find advertisement and all that stuff later on. Same with you. You can find it later on and put it on your show because, again, people will always find it and listen to it.
What's next?
We are also working on a audio sitcom called Supermarket. This is an exclusive. We haven't announced it anywhere. Yes.
Awesome.
And it is a full slapstick sitcom. We have some amazing actors from Kim's Convenience, Schitt's Creek, an actor from Riverdale. We have a lot of great talent on this show. We've already recorded the pilot and it's wild. I mean, we just came off of doing Cascadia and Ice Cream, which are both kind of dark shows, and we want to do something completely opposite. And this is a lot of fun. That's going to come out in the summer.
Wow. So lots of audio drama in your future. Is this your career now?
It is. I mean, I'm still acting. I still audition and stuff. But this, creating my own stuff is like the best thing ever. As an actor, you don't really get that opportunity. You kind of just audition, and then if you book it, and that's someone else's work that you're portraying, right? So this is kind of my fun little way of creating my own stuff with my friends, and I just love it so much.
Come on. Come on. Shit, out of film.
Scream for it.
Holy shit. You just took that little girl.
Ice Cream captures the vibe of an 80s horror story well. Fans of the genre will enjoy the monstrous scares and the retro soundtrack, elevated by strong performances and careful attention to detail. You can listen to Ice Cream on most major podcast platforms or see our show notes for more information. The first episode of is written and produced by W. Keith Timms. All the opinions expressed in this show belong to the people who expressed them and not necessarily to anyone else. The theme song is Mockingbird by David Mumford. This show is a production of Alien Ghost Robot Creative Media. If you want more information, want to sign up for our newsletter, or are an audio drama creator and would like to be on the show, visit our website at TheFirstEpisodeOf.com. We're happy to be a part of the Audio Drama Lab, a Discord-based resource for audio drama development and networking. Check it out at audiodramalab.com. Keep telling stories. It's the only way we're going to get out of this mess. Until next time. I know you got questions about him. Where did he come from? How did he do all those things they say he did? Was he a terrorist? Was he crazy? Was his skin really blue? Well, I'll tell you what I know. I was there with him, driving through the back roads under the stars. I was witness to wonders and miracles, and to the darkness that's coursing through the veins of our country. He came to fight it in his own strange way, but no one leaves that fight unchanged. Not even Rael. People ought to know the truth. And I was there. The Book of Constellations is a down-to-earth sci-fi road trip. It's audio fiction, and you can find episodes at bookofconstellations.com or wherever you get your podcasts.